All right, this is Kirby and the Lost Land. Wait, is that the name? Is that the name? Hold on. The Forgotten Land. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It's hard to believe this is the first 3D Kirby game in the mainline series of Kirby games, not counting, sideline weird stuff, but as far as the action platforming game that really Kirby started as, this is really the first transition into 3D, and wow, did they ever pull it off. This game is developed by HAL Laboratory, as pretty much most of the Kirby games are, especially all the mainline Kirby games in the series. Kirby started on the Game Boy. The very first Kirby, what the heck were they called? Kirby and Dreamland? Wow, I'm pretty good with names today. I always thought this game started on the NES. I just assumed that, I guess. I didn't own this game back in the day when it came out. I remember seeing commercials for it, and I had a friend who had the Game Boy version. But I guess I just always assumed the NES version came first, and then there was a Game Boy version. I suppose that's just because that's usually the way it goes. But yeah, with Kirby, the first one was on the Game Boy, and it was pretty much just a standard platformer, other than the fact that he could float a little bit. He didn't have the abilities to suck in the enemies and steal their powers, which is crazy to imagine. The first Kirby game didn't have that. But yeah, they quickly came out with the NES version, which was the first Kirby game. How you think of a Kirby game, the ability to suck in your enemies and steal their powers. And then they went back and did a second one on the Game Boy. That was Dreamland 2, and that played more like the NES version. That was like the first Kirby game that I really played, really got into, and eventually beat. That was the first Kirby game that I beat, and I eventually went back and beat the first one on the Game Boy. Honestly, never beat Kirby's Adventure on NES, so should probably play that one a little bit more. But for some reason, I always gravitated towards the Game Boy games. They're great Game Boy games, the first two Kirby games, and they're good to just pick up and play kind of games. The second one is a little more in-depth, obviously. Anyways, point is, there's been a lot of these mainline Kirby's adventure games, action platformer games, where you suck in the enemies and you steal their power-ups, and it was a main mascot for Nintendo, even though it's developed by HAL, developed by Nintendo, but they were always published by Nintendo, and pretty much like Nintendo exclusive, I think, at least, safe to say, all the mainline Kirby games anyways. And when all the Nintendo mascots, when all the big Nintendo published games, started going to 3D, with the N64 era, you had your Marios and your Zeldas and Star Fox was already 3D, but you had your Marios and your Zeldas and Metroid, I guess, with the GameCube. All the main Nintendo published kind of Nintendo mascot games, pretty quickly got like 3D versions. And most of them worked pretty well, especially the early ones, Mario 64 and Zelda, for transitioning to, something completely different. They did a great job, and Kirby never got like a 3D, action adventure game. And here it is. Here we are, all these years later, and it's pretty much exactly what you would expect. This game plays kind of like Super Mario 3D Land or 3D World mixed with Odyssey. it has a lot of fixed camera angles, similar to like 3D Land, but obviously the different power-ups you get and how much variation there is in the power-ups and how a power-up can totally change the way you play the game is very much like Mario Odyssey, to the point that the argument could be that Mario Odyssey plays more like a Kirby game. Again, this game has a bit more depth to it than other Kirby games, as you might expect. It's a modern game, and you can actually upgrade your weapons. You can upgrade your power-ups, so that requires money, the coins, and these special rare rock things that you collect, and you can eventually use those to buy upgraded power-ups. So that's pretty cool. This game, it looks great, it runs great. I have no major complaints. There's a lot of variety. I've shown you a fair bit of variety. I've shown you a couple boss fights. I've shown you lots of little secrets. There's lots of little secrets, little nooks and crannies and things that are hidden away. And everything I've shown you so far, all this stuff I've talked about, all the different variety in the levels, shown you a couple boss fights, shown you lots of secrets. It's all been in World 1. Yeah, this is all World 1, and I'm just unlocking World 2, and looking forward to it. So yeah, definitely recommend this game. I'm not going to show you too much. I think you should probably pick it up yourself.